That night, I was heading home later than usual. By the time I finished work and reached the station, it was already dark. I boarded my usual train and took an empty seat. There were a few other passengers on the train, probably heading home from work. Some were looking at their phones. Some had their eyes closed. Others were staring out the window. It was the same ordinary scene I'd seen countless times before. I was exhausted. I thought I'd get some sleep until I got home. So I closed my eyes. As I listened to the steady rhythm of the train and felt it gently rocking beneath me, I slowly drifted off to sleep. Then, I woke up. The train was still moving. I slowly raised my head. How long had I been asleep? I reached for my phone. And suddenly stopped. It was quiet. All I could hear was the sound of the train moving along the tracks. Something felt wrong. I looked at the seats across from me. No one was there. I looked to my left, then my right. No one. Every passenger I'd seen before falling asleep was gone. Did I miss my stop? I stood up and looked into the next car. No one. I checked the car beyond that. No one there either. I was the only person left on the train. I quickly checked my phone. More time had passed than I'd expected. But there was something even stranger. The train wasn't stopping at any stations. Normally, we would have passed several stops by now. I looked out the window. It was completely dark. No city lights. No houses. No roads. The train just kept moving through the darkness.
Had I gotten on the wrong train?
No, that couldn't be right. I'd boarded the same train I always took from the same station.
So, where was I?
I walked through the train. Maybe there was someone else here. Maybe I could find the conductor. Excuse me? No answer. Is anyone there? Only the sound of the train answered me. For the first time, being alone started to scare me. Then, the train began to slow down. Finally, a station. I felt a little relieved. A dimly lit platform appeared outside the window. The train came to a stop. The doors opened. There was no one on the platform. No station staff. No passengers waiting for a train. I couldn't even see any buildings nearby. I'd never seen this station before. For a moment, I wondered if I should stay on the train. Maybe if I stayed, it would eventually take me somewhere I recognized. But I had no idea where this train was going next. So I made up my mind and stepped onto the platform. The moment I stepped off, the doors closed behind me. I turned around. Wait. The train began to move. I rushed toward the doors. But it was too late. The train picked up speed and disappeared into the darkness. I was alone. It was quiet. Once the sound of the train faded away, I couldn't hear anything at all. I looked around the platform. An old bench. Rusty pillars. Dim lights barely illuminating the station. Then, a little farther down the platform, I noticed a station sign. I walked toward it and read the name. Kisaragi? Kisaragi Station. I'd never heard of it. I searched for Kisaragi Station on my phone. Nothing. No station with that name appeared. I opened the map. It couldn't determine my location. I tried again. Same result. I called my family. Thankfully, the call went through. I told them everything. That I'd fallen asleep on the train. That everyone was gone when I woke up. That I'd gotten off at a station I'd never seen before. A station called Kisaragi. Of course. They'd never heard of it either. They told me to find a station employee. So I walked around the station. But there was no one in the station office. No one at the ticket gates. I went outside. There was nothing there. No taxis. No convenience stores. No houses. Just a dark road. Stretching into the distance. I went back to the platform. I'd wait for the next train. That seemed like the safest thing to do. But no train came. The trains should still have been running at this hour. Time just kept passing. And I was getting more and more nervous.
Was this really a station?
Then I heard something in the distance. I looked up. A drum? I listened carefully. Along with the drum, I could hear something that sounded like a small bell.
Was there some kind of festival nearby?
But there was nothing around the station.
And besides, at this hour?
The sounds came from somewhere beyond the darkness. But I couldn't tell where. Suddenly, I had this terrible feeling that I shouldn't stay here. I needed to leave the station. The tracks had to lead somewhere. If I followed them, maybe I'd reach another station. Or at least somewhere with people. I knew walking on the tracks was dangerous. But staying here felt even worse. I climbed down from the platform and started walking. The tracks disappeared into the darkness. I used the light from my phone to see where I was going. Stepping carefully over each railroad tie. All I could hear were my own footsteps. At some point, the sound of the drum and bell had disappeared. I don't know how long I'd been walking. I looked back. I couldn't see the lights of Kisaragi Station anymore. Nothing ahead. Nothing behind me. Just the tracks. I was beginning to regret leaving the station. Maybe I should have stayed there.
Hey.
I stopped. The voice came from behind me.
Hey.
A man's voice. Someone was there. I turned around. There was someone standing in the darkness. An old man. For a moment, I felt relieved. Finally, another person. Then the old man shouted at me.
Hey. Don't walk on the tracks. It's dangerous.
His voice sounded completely normal. But something wasn't right. I pointed the light from my phone toward him. For just a moment, the light illuminated his body. He was missing a leg. He was standing there, on only one leg. What? I instinctively looked away. Then I raised my phone again. There was no one there. I ran. I couldn't think. I just ran, along the tracks. I nearly fell several times as I stumbled over the railroad ties. I didn't look back. I was too afraid to. After running for a while, I saw something in the darkness ahead. A huge black opening. It was a tunnel. I approached the entrance. There was an old sign. It read, Esanuki Tunnel. I stopped. The tunnel was completely dark. I looked behind me. No one was there. Should I go back? Or keep going? I hesitated. But after coming this far, I couldn't bring myself to turn back. So I stepped into the tunnel. One step. Then another. My footsteps echoed through the tunnel. The light from my phone only reached a few feet ahead. The walls were wet. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness. My breathing sounded strangely loud. I kept walking. I don't know how long I was in there. Far ahead, I saw a tiny light. The exit. I walked toward it. The light slowly grew larger. And finally, I stepped out of the tunnel. I breathed in the cold night air. For the first time in a while, I felt a little relieved. Then,
Are you okay?
a voice suddenly came from behind me. Startled, I turned around. A man was standing there. He looked completely normal. I was so relieved to see another person that I told him what had happened. That I'd arrived at a station I'd never heard of. That I'd walked along the tracks. That I had no idea how to get home. The man looked confused. Then he said,
"There aren't any train stations around here."
A chill ran down my spine. I told him the name. Kisaragi Station. He said he'd never heard of it. But then, he offered to drive me to the nearest station. A man I'd never met. Standing out here in the middle of the night. I wasn't completely comfortable with it. But there was no one else I could ask for help. Finally, I could go home. At least, that's what I believed. I got into his car. The car started moving. For a while, neither of us said anything. I was exhausted. I was scared. But I was safe now. At least, that's what I thought. I looked out the window. A dark road stretched ahead of us. After a while, I noticed something. The mountains were getting closer. I thought we were heading toward town. But we were going deeper and deeper into the mountains. There were fewer streetlights now. No houses. No other cars. I looked at the man. "Is the station this way?" He didn't answer. He just kept looking straight ahead. "Excuse me?" I asked again. Still no answer. Then I noticed he was muttering something under his breath. Quietly. Over and over. I couldn't understand what he was saying. I tightened my grip on my phone. Just a few minutes ago, I'd been so relieved to see him. Now, I was terrified to be alone with him.
The car was still heading deeper into the mountains. Where was he taking me?
I'm going to wait for a chance. And run.
That was her last post?
Yes. After that message, she never posted again.
Then, what happened to her?
We don't know.
We don't know?
No. And that unknown ending is part of what has kept this Japanese internet legend alive for more than 20 years. It is known as Kisaragi Station.
But Professor, was Kisaragi Station originally just a scary story?
Not exactly. And that's what makes Kisaragi Station so unusual.
What do you mean?
It began on January 8, 2004. A user named Hasumi began posting on the Japanese anonymous message board 2 channel.
2004. So this story is more than 20 years old.
That's right. But here's the important part. Kisaragi Station wasn't originally posted as a complete horror story.
It wasn't?
No. Hasumi was posting about strange things that seemed to be happening to her while she was still on the train. The train hadn't stopped at a station for a very long time. People reading the thread began responding. Could it be an express train? Have you tried finding the conductor? Are there any other passengers? Hasumi would answer them and post another update about what was happening. Then the people reading would ask more questions. Or suggest what she should do next.
So they weren't reading a story that already had an ending?
Exactly. At least from the perspective of the people in that thread. Something strange appeared to be happening. In real time.
That must have been terrifying to watch as it happened.
And there's something important we should explain about the story you just watched.
What's that?
Our version is not a word-for-word recreation of the original posts.
So it's different from the original?
In some ways, yes. We reconstructed the story as a first-person horror experience.
Is that why Hasumi told the whole story from her own perspective?
Exactly. In the original thread, we learn what is happening through Hasumi's posts and her conversations with the people responding to her. For this video, we turned many of those exchanges into Hasumi's own actions and thoughts. So you could experience the story from her point of view.
That makes sense.
We also changed a few details to make the story flow naturally from a first-person perspective.
But what about Kisaragi Station itself?
That's different. Kisaragi Station. The mysterious sounds of drums and bells. Walking along the tracks. The one-legged old man. Esanuki Tunnel. The mysterious man beyond the tunnel. And his car heading deeper into the mountains. Those major elements follow the core of the original story.
So you didn't create a completely different version of Kisaragi Station.
Exactly. We wanted to preserve the original story, while letting you experience it through the eyes of the person trapped inside it.
Okay, Professor. There's one thing I really want to know.
What's that?
Where exactly is Kisaragi Station?
Nowhere.
It doesn't exist?
At least, there is no officially recognized railway station in Japan called Kisaragi Station.
So the whole place is fictional?
That's where things get interesting.
Huh?
Based on details from the original posts, people began to suspect that the story might have been connected to a real railway line.
Which one?
The Enshu Railway in Hamamatsu, Shizuoka Prefecture. And one station in particular became closely associated with the legend. Sajinomiya Station.
Sajinomiya. Kisaragi. They do sound a little similar.
Over time, people began suggesting that Sajinomiya Station might have been the inspiration for Kisaragi Station.
So Sajinomiya is the real Kisaragi Station?
Not so fast.
It's not?
There's no proof that Sajinomiya Station was actually the model for Kisaragi Station. This is important. It's a popular theory, not a confirmed fact.
I see. So if I go to Sajinomiya Station, I won't accidentally enter another world?
Normally, no.
Normally? Why did you stop talking?
But this is where the story takes an interesting turn.
There's more?
Kisaragi Station became so famous that the Enshu Railway itself eventually embraced the legend.
The actual railway company did?
Yes. They've held events inspired by Kisaragi Station, including displays that temporarily transformed Sajinomiya Station into Kisaragi Station.
So Kisaragi Station became real?
For an event, yes.
I want to go.
It won't take you to another world.
That's probably a good thing.
But think about how strange that is. In 2004, a station that didn't exist appeared in a story on the internet. People began connecting that fictional station to a real place. And years later, the real railway company brought that fictional station into the real world.
It's like the urban legend came back into reality.
Exactly.
Professor, what actually happened to Hasumi?
We don't know.
I thought you'd say that.
After getting into the man's car, Hasumi continued posting updates. The car was heading toward the mountains. The driver was behaving strangely. He began muttering something she couldn't understand. And she was looking for a chance to escape. Then the post stopped. So Kisaragi Station doesn't really have an ending.
Then, we don't know if Hasumi ever made it home?
We don't.
We don't know who that man was?
No.
And we don't know what Kisaragi Station actually was?
No. And perhaps that's why, more than 20 years later, there's still room for us to wonder what happened next. So, if you're ever heading home from work or school, and you fall asleep on your usual train, and when you wake up, you're somewhere you don't recognize, and the train just keeps going, without stopping at the next station.
Stop it.
I didn't even finish.
I'm never sleeping on a train again.